Thank you. All right, it works. How nice is it to be in person? First of all, you all have to be the best looking audience I've spoken to live in 18 months. Don't ask how many live presentations I've given. Those are just details. Just focus on the fact that you all are the best looking group I've talked to in the last 18 months. And the folks that are on virtually, thank you for joining us. Whether you're in the office in your business cash or at home in your jammies, you look great too. I wanted to start off with a little bit of a reflection on 2020. Occasionally, some of our internal meetings, Wade blesses us with a top 10 list. And so I thought I would put together a top 10 list for today on all of the things that were normal about 2020. Yeah, I got nothing. So that being said, it makes everything that was accomplished last year in your shops and in ours that much more special, because nothing about 2020 was normal. So I wanted to look this year at 3 questions. What happened? What really happened? And what's happening now? Because sometimes it's all about perspective. So I'm going to address those 3 questions. But first, a little bit of a state of the corporate. You got some statistics. I'm going to give some that are a little bit more right now, as of the end of July, because we have had some significant things occur during this year. So last year I gave you the 12/31/19 numbers and compared those to 7/31/20. So I've included those on there with 7/31/21. And I just want to point out tier 1 capital increased from 102 to 135 million, retained earnings from 34, almost 35 million to 68. Significant increases in those numbers. Part of that is earnings. Part of that is the distributions from the asset management estate of US Central. The retained earnings that we charged off years ago is incrementally being returned to the corporate. Assets 1.34 billion to 2.9 billion, more than a double in the number of assets on balance sheet. Assets under management, 2.5 billion to currently 5.3 billion. Now, what's the difference in assets and assets under management? Assets are what you would think of in terms of just our assets on our balance sheet. Assets under management are everything on balance sheet plus either the deposits that we've helped you put into the primary financial simplicity product. So we've helped you manage those assets, but they're not on our balance sheet. Or if we've helped you place investment dollars into marketable securities through our QSO, our brokerage arm with our investments department, those are dollars we've helped you manage that are not on our balance sheet. Or if we have deposits of yours that are sitting in the EBA or excess balance account of the Fed. So total dollars that we're helping you manage today has also more than doubled since 12/31/19. And a lot of that is, again, of course, government stimulus that's inflating your balance sheets and it's filtering to ours. As a result of that, our tier 1 ratio and our retained earnings ratio don't look quite like they did 12/31/19, but they're recovering 8.12 to 5.4, but we've made it back above well-capitalized status. And the retained earnings ratio of 2.84, which did drop. I'm not sure why I have a dollar sign there. I guess I just wanted to see who was paying attention and how many people I could confuse, but that's supposed to be 2.32% with a random dollar sign there just to catch your attention. But 2.77% currently. So these are some just important data that I want to provide to you to get you current real time, because most of this is reflective of 12/31/20 for the 2020 annual meeting. But I think there's so much happening right now. There's so much going on. Interest rate compression, or interest rates being so low, creating margin compression, balance sheets being inflated, asset management estate distributions. There's just so much happening right now that I wanted to give some current information to you today as well. So, but moving ahead with that, the annual report theme headwinds for this year depicts 2020 pretty much as it was, as if we were all heading full speed into headwinds, strong headwinds. And can I get an amen to that? That's exactly what it felt like last year for all of us. So what happened? John already talked about it. With the tornadoes, COVID, work from home, which is a part of COVID, the bombing Christmas Day. We had to adjust all those. I call that the 2020 trifecta. We always say bad things come in threes. We were kind of relieved when we got past the Christmas Day bombing. Hey, maybe that's it. There's our three. So what happened was we had the 2020 trifecta, and we had to figure out how to make sure your service from us was not disrupted. A little extra love for IT. VolCorp's IT on the Christmas bombing had to redirect everything to our business recovery center, only to find out midday Sunday or mid-afternoon Sunday that everything had been restored with AT&T, and redirect everything back to our main office before start of business on Monday morning. It's a big task, and our IT guys did it like it was just what they do. And so just wanted to acknowledge those guys as well, because they, yes. Because they make it look like all they did was flip a switch, but they were the ducks on the pond. Look calm, cool, and collected on top, pedaling like hell underneath the water. So good job to those guys. But what really happened? What should we focus on from 2020? Well, what really happened was we turned those headwinds into tailwinds and used that to our advantage. We kept our feet moving despite all of the outside forces. Sometimes it's just about perspective. A personal story that I wasn't going to share, and then right before I came down here, I decided to share it, and I wasn't, because I don't know if I can do it without a quivery chin, so bear with me. But it's the best example of perspective that I've had in my world lately, and that's my 12-year-old. You all know I don't pass up a proud daddy moment, so if I'd have known I was going to give in and do this, I would have had their pictures up here. But Morgan, a little over a week ago, was diagnosed with COVID, and Morgan is terrified of all things white coat. She doesn't handle even getting a fever well. It paralyzes her. And when she spiked 103.4 degree fever early last week, and we told her that we needed to take her to the doctor, she gets so afraid she nearly passes out. Just going to get checked out, she nearly passed out, blacked out coming down the stairs. Terrifies her. 24 hours later, diagnosed with COVID. So when my wife texted me and said, just heard from Leanne, she's positive, I immediately went into, how do I handle this conversation without her blacking out? She's been home all day waiting for this news. Tammy asked me if I wanted to wait for her to just get home and we'd do it together. And I said, nope, I'm just going to go rip the Band-Aid off. So I went to her door, opened it, stepped back with my mask on. And as soon as she saw the mask, she had a sneaking suspicion what was coming. And I'm just trying to figure out, how do I break this news to her and then get to her before she passes out? And I said, I got something to tell you. There's no easy way to do it. I'm just going to say it. And she said, okay. And I said, you tested positive. You have COVID. And she looked at me and she said, okay, can I tell my friends? Huh? Can I tell my friends? Hold on, this is not going how I expected to. I'm trying to digest the moment. Can you? Yeah, I guess. I said, you're okay? And this is where the perspective comes into play. She says, I'm okay, Daddy. She holds up her iPod, because we haven't let her have a phone yet. She holds up her iPod and she says, there's 15 of us that are either at home with COVID or at home waiting on our results. And we basically just formed a COVID support chat group. And we've been chatting with each other all day just to support each other through this. And so I've gone all day just assuming that this is what you were going to tell me, so that when you did come and tell me, I wouldn't panic. That's really mature of you. And she said, I just figured it was how I decided to think about it that mattered. Perspective. I thought she's going to pass out and I'm going to have to figure out how to revive her, and not, how do you revive a child who's passed out and you can't get near her because she has COVID? So I'm trying to figure out, okay, I'm just going to dive right in. And her reaction, can I tell my friends? So it was all about the perspective that she had decided to frame around this experience that she had. Another thing that I think is interesting is John talked about keep on keeping on. I have another way of saying the same thing, which is just keep your feet moving. A number of years ago when I was going through graduate school over here at Owen, I was full-time husband, full-time dad, full-time, at that time, CFO, full-time student, full-time try to maintain sanity somewhere along the way for myself as well. And every now and then I would be walking through the building at VolCorp thinking about all the things that I had going on during that 2-week segment between classes. And The person who ran the front desk for us at that time would catch me walking down the hall, talking to myself, saying out loud, just keep your feet moving, just keep your feet moving. And she would say, Jeff, you're doing it again. Keep your feet moving, buddy. And oh, sorry. But that was what it was. I viewed it like pushing a big boulder. If you get some momentum, you just have to keep your feet moving, because if you stop, you may not get it started again. That's the reality we lived in the last 18 months. We had momentum. We had to keep our feet moving. So what's happening now? Well, the last 2 years in my presentations, I talked about momentum and foundational strength. So what's happening now is how all of that feeds in, both of those two themes feed into today's realities at VolCorp, which I'll get into more in a minute. Most of you know I like to spend more of my time in my presentation at the annual meeting talking about you all and your members. So I'm going to go there and circle back to VolCorp momentarily. Throughout this COVID experience, we've all heard the cliche used a lot of times about we're all in the same boat. I used it many times. And then our HR director, Linda Jameson, shared an article with me about a year ago. And it was an interesting perspective that said, we're not in the same boat. We're all in the same storm. We're not in the same boat. Some people's boats are more equipped to handle the storm. Some people are in a little dinghy boat just trying to survive the waves. Some people don't even feel the waves. We're in the same storm, not the same boat. We have to be sensitive to that. Every storm ends. So when will this one? Some thought it was election day. Some people thought it was when the winter rolled around. Some people thought it was when it got hot and the summer rolled around. At this point, no one knows when it's going to end, but we do know every storm ends, much like the one that had us running for cover in the middle of the golf tournament today. So when will this one? Well, I'm a part of a Bible study every 2 weeks with a group of really cool guys they're actually all out of Memphis. So I joined via Zoom. My uncle and 2 other guys help facilitate or lead this group. And it's called The Journey. And about a month ago, we were going through the study for that week, and it used a boat analogy, which seems rather appropriate. You'll hear a lot of nautical references through today. And essentially, this is what it says. The boat represents your life. The sail represents the necessary part of the boat that catches the wind. Key part. The wind, of course, propels you forward. What is your wind? The sail has to be purposefully hoisted in order to catch the wind. The rudder represents our choices. What do we do? What do we follow? What do we feed? In a video last year, I talked about feed your faith, starve your fears. What are we feeding? Do we choose to follow the momentum we can gain in life and in business that's offered by the wind? We can't see the wind, but we can feel it. We know it's there. So we're hoisting our sail and using our rudder to capture and take advantage of that. The anchor is those things that either can weigh us down and stop our journey, or things we can use to our benefit to slow us down and help us to focus on the right things at the right time when we need to the most. So how do you deploy your anchor? If we don't raise our sail, we can't capture the wind. And the way we sail impacts how other people sail. The way I sail personally, the way you sail personally, impacts how other people in your circle of influence sail. The way VolCorp sails impacts how your credit union sails. How your credit union sails impacts how your membership sails. So are your members hanging on to you, or are you hanging on to them? And what do I mean by that? Well, do you have members that are drowning or at best treading water, and they just need you to be what you've always been? Be there, be reliable, just be trusted, be someone who can help them with their financial lives right now when everything else is such a mess? Or do you have members who are swimming full speed ahead, and they need you to be what you've not been yet? They need you to be that next thing. They need you to continue to innovate. They need you to prove to them why they should work with you instead of the entity, the big bank, the fintech, the whomever that's vying for their business down the street. You probably have both in your membership. You need to be what you've always been for one member, yet you need to be something innovative and forward-looking for the next, all at the same time, because while we're all in the same storm, we're not in the same boat. It's the same way with us. We have members just like you do, that some are just looking for us to throw them a life raft. Others want us to put them on a high-speed catamaran and move them to the next thing. We have to be able to adjust to both. Either way, they're looking for you to help them turn their headwinds into tailwinds. So as you sail up. I was laying at the chiropractor getting therapy about 2 weeks ago. My chiropractor plays K-Love, so it's really relaxing to go in there. And I'm laying there, and Eye of the Storm by Ray Stevenson comes on. It says, in the eye of the storm, you remain in control. And in the middle of the war, you guard my soul. You alone are the anchor when my sails are torn. Your love surrounds me in the eye of the storm. The song obviously has a bigger meaning, but if you apply that to credit unions, and think about your members, for us, our members, where the sails are torn, they have them raised, but they're still having trouble. You're the anchor. You're what they need. You guys have stepped up to the plate in 2020 and so far in 2021 and been there. Kudos to you for that. I've said before that where I get my inspiration from my talks is either something I hear from my pastor, something I hear from family and friends, another speaker. Usually I'm sitting there and I have this aha moment. Oh, there it is. And then things start just coming to my mind. Sometimes I'm looking for confirmation afterwards. And I feel like when we're doing the right thing and we're in his will, we always get that confirmation from somewhere, sometimes where we least expect it. This past Sunday, my girls and I sat down for church. And in the opening comments from our pastor, he said, the church is not a box to be checked. It's an anchor for the storms in your life. When the storms in life come, that's when our ache for more comes. I got out my notebook and got my pen ready because I was like, oh, here it comes. That's my theme of my whole presentation already. I felt like something was still missing. There was some dots that weren't quite connecting. And I had a feeling it was about to be thrown right at me. But that's when the need for real relationship aches, whether personally or professionally, is when the storms in life come. That's when being a credit union really means something. I don't have to talk to you about the difference between a credit union and a bank. So I know that what I just said already resonates, but that's when being a credit union means something. That's when being a part of a corporate credit union really means something. Because when you ache for more, that's when we want to step up and develop that relationship and work with you. The theme of the last 2 years, again, was momentum and foundational strength. This year, it's called a blessing strategy. The next thing our pastor talked about was a 4th grade balloon game. And he talked about an example where a 4th grade teacher gathered her students, cleared out the middle of the room, tied a balloon to everybody's ankle, explained that the purpose of the game was to stomp everyone else's balloon. And when your balloon was stomped, you exited the game. Explained that, said, go. All the kids started running around in a frenzy, stomping each other's balloons. Some of the more timid kids in the class were kind of hovering on the back. And by the time they got down to one balloon, it was the bigger, the way it was described, kind of bully in the room who had dominated the game and stood in the center victorious while everyone else around the room stood there looking deflated. No pun intended, that just hit me. But everyone in the room, yeah, sorry, sometimes they just come, stood there feeling deflated. The young man in the middle of the room, victorious. Did the same experiment with her afternoon group as they changed teachers in this group. And in her afternoon group, she had a group that was a little bit more challenged with their learning, a little bit slower. And she explained the rules to the group the exact same way and got a very different reaction from the group. When she said go, these kids all ran around the room holding their balloon in place so somebody could come stomp their balloon. At the end of the game, when every balloon was stomped, the entire room celebrated. They all felt victorious. Was it how they interpreted the rules? Did she explain it differently? Don't know. But the difference was the first group had a winning for me strategy. The second group had a blessing for everyone strategy. The latter is the world we live in credit unions. Credit unions are a blessing. You are a blessing. When we work together, like the second group, we bless the many through our collaborative effort. J.C. Royal said, friendship halves our troubles and doubles our joy. When my little one told me about her COVID support chat group, I realized instantly that group was cutting her troubles in half. We'll go with that. Having her trouble, doubling her joy, because they had a blessing for all strategy for how to get each other through it. You bring that same sense of calm to your members when the storm rages, when they're just hanging on to you for dear life. You cut their troubles in half, you double their joy. At VolCorp and now at Symphony, we hope that we do the same for you. At other times, though, we're called to step out of the boat, be bold when it scares us the most. Can anyone say Peter from the book of Matthew? Our members are depending on us to do more to keep forging ahead despite the storm. They depend on us to do that. We have to do so in order to hang on to them. You have to do that in order to hang on to them. We have to keep our feet moving. Max Lucado said, if there are 1,000 steps between us and him, he will take all but one. He will leave the final one to us. Simply put, it's the same thing in credit unions. We have to keep our feet moving. We have to take the 999 steps and be ready when that member, regardless as to what their boat looks like, is ready to turn around and take the one to us. We have to keep our feet moving, take our 999 steps. They know we're always going to be there for them. You know we're going to always be there for you. Some turn to us sooner than others, but they all know we'll be ready when they do. So hang on to them the way they need you to. Sound familiar? Chris Gardner, who you may or may not know the name, but you probably know what he's known for. He was the real life human that the Will Smith character in the book, or excuse me, the movie Pursuit of Happiness was about. He spoke at a conference that I attended virtually about a week ago, and he's got a quote: Plan B sucks. If it was any good, it would be Plan A. Plan B distracts from Plan A. Your members know that you're Plan A. As your trusted strategic partner, we at VolCorp and Symphony hope that we're your Plan A. If there's areas where we're not, let us know how we can earn that opportunity to show you that we can be your Plan A. So for you, what happened? What really happened? And what's happening now? Well, in summary, based on feedback that I've gotten from some of the members, personally, you raised your sail, you captured the wind, you fed your faith, you kept your feet moving. Professionally, as a credit union, you provided the wind, regardless as to what your members' boats looked like. You gave your members the calm that they needed, and they helped them realize that regardless as to what their boat looks like or what the storm, how the storm rages on, you're still Plan A. So how does this all relate to VolCorp? What is happening now at VolCorp? Plan A. We didn't shift to Plan B. We kept moving, kept our feet moving. John Ortberg is the author of my favorite book. And for those who know me, you know that to me, pleasure reading is an oxymoron. And so to say favorite book is saying something. This is an amazing book. It's called If You Want to Walk on Water, You've Got to Get Out of the Boat. But in that book, there's a quote: the worst failure is not to sink in the waves. The worst failure is to never get out of the boat, to never give yourself a chance, to stop your feet just because the storm rages on and you just want to hunker down, versus continuing to forge ahead and make sure that you can hold on to those members whose boats are more equipped and need you to be that kind of credit union. We went on vacation about a month ago to Seagrove Beach. A handful of you probably know I'm into cycling. So my wife and I took our bikes down there. What you may not know is from one end to the other, round trip, I guess I should say, 30A is just over 37 miles. It is a glorious ride. But 37 miles means 18 and a half miles of that is straight into a strong headwind. That's the less glorious 18 and a half miles of the 37. We did that ride almost every day. Started off going into the headwind. worked through the rigors of riding 18.5 miles into the headwind, knowing that the victory on the other side, the reward on the other side was going to be 18.5 miles headed back with a tailwind on a flat, beautiful, scenic ride. So at VolCorp, how are we turning our headwinds into tailwinds? We're keeping our feet moving. John, or maybe Ron, one of them, talked about the CLF. We all use the cliche jokingly about something taking an act of Congress. I don't know that I ever really thought I could say I directly impacted an act of Congress, but VolCorp did, as we participated with the Corporate Credit Union Alliance in trying to get the CLF provisions put into place last year and then getting them extended. And now they're looking at making them permanent. That's not for our benefit. It's so that there's a contingency liquidity facility that's available to you in the event there's a need for one. We were able to get that accomplished. We launched Symphony, which offers enterprise risk consulting. The service that we heard from you all was desperately needed. Business continuity consulting, supervisory committee audits, and somehow or another, I've not got on here the vendor contract optimization. It's what I get when I change my slides in the late hours at the last minute. That's supposed to be on here too. Vendor contract optimization. Good news is you'll get to hear about that tomorrow. But we launched Symphony, kept our feet moving. Oh, I see how it is. It got messed up with the formatting. It's on there. So based on member feedback, we're putting enhanced technologies in place. The couple of little hiccups that we experienced from the work from home environment, we heard that feedback. We're putting some advanced technologies in place. We had feedback that some of our vendor contracts, we should look at some of those. We looked into some of those to see if there were enhancements that could be made. Karen Claybo, I don't know where you're at. I'm not going to steal your thunder, don't worry. Karen's got some stuff that she's going to introduce to everyone tomorrow. Stuff that's very cool that we're excited about, that has either already been rolled out or is about to be rolled out. And then in addition to that, we've got more to come that we're not ready to reveal yet, but that we're working on behind the curtain. So we've continued to keep our feet moving. We've continued to press ahead despite what was going on around us with the 2020 trifecta. So a number of things in the works and in discovery, but none of that would be possible if we hadn't been willing to step out of the boat when the headwinds were at their strongest, if we hadn't kept our feet moving. We've got our sail raised up to catch the wind, and we're on the move because we know how we sail impacts how you sail, and we take that to heart. It's been a really great first 40 years. I haven't been here for all of it, but I've been here for 17 of it. And I am so grateful to have been a part of the last 17 years of it. I look forward to the 17 that lie ahead because I feel just like John, that the best is yet to come. We've got some really great stuff going on, and we've got great stuff down the pike. So super grateful to be a part of this VolCorp family. Grateful for you all as the members for being a part of the VolCorp family, because without all of us doing it together, it doesn't work. If we don't have the ability to be your trusted strategic partner, it doesn't work. Without each of you supporting your corporate and working with your corporate, we can't support everyone else around you. So by you doing business with us, you're helping everyone else in the room around you continue to serve their community. That's how it works. So we're very thankful for that. We equip each other to weather those storms and to get out of the boat. One of the things my uncle also said recently in our Saturday morning time together, he said he doesn't equip the called, but he doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. You're equipped. You do it well. Speaking of inspiration, I won't make everybody stand up because you've already done it, but I do want to recognize the staff. The VolCorp staff that you saw stand up a minute ago are some of the most remarkable people I know. They love what they do. They love why they do it. They do it with pride, and they are a joy to work with. It is really an honor to have been a part of that for 17 years, to be in this role for almost 6, and to be able to see them grow and flourish, and to see how their work matters and how they help you sail. And so I just want to give a special thank you just from me to all the VolCorp staff, those that are in the room, those are at the office making the magic happen right now so we can be in the room together. Those are at home, either joining us virtually or working. It's an extraordinary group of folks. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you. I also want to thank the board because, not because they keep me employed, but though that's not a bad reason. The fact of the matter is we kept our feet moving and kept our sail raised to catch the wind because they enabled us and allowed us to do so, because they have faith and belief in the people you saw stand up a minute ago that make it happen. We could have hunkered down and said, let's just weather the storm. But they didn't. They said, you know what? We believe in you all. Keep your feet moving. And so if it weren't for the staff that stood a few minutes ago and that are at the office now doing it all, and if it weren't for the board's belief in those folks, none of what's happening right now that I've just explained to you or that you'll hear about tomorrow or in the coming months would be possible. So if we could, while we've been doing all these round of applause, I would like to give a little bit of extra love to staff and to the board. So what happened, what really happened, and what's happening now? Well, bottom line, we're sailing strong, hoping that that impacts how you sail as well. So be proud of how you've helped your members, because they turn to you when the storms get rough. And COVID has created a storm, quite a storm for so many. Keep taking the 999 steps towards them. They know you'll be there when they turn and take their one, if they haven't already. Raise your sail, catch the wind, use your rudder wisely, anchor to the right things, not those that halt progress, but those things that should be fed. Remember, the way you sail impacts others. Be bold, step out of the boat. Your staff, your members, your friends and family will follow. Stay focused on plan A, because plan B sucks. Know that VolCorp will continue doing all of those things for you as well. Let us know how we can do that for you specifically, because we know that you all of your shops are in the same storm too, but in different boats. One size doesn't fit all. Let us know how we can help. Think about what all we can do together when we help each other step out of the boat and be bold. Because when we come together, like how I did that, Wade, when we come together with a blessing strategy instead of a winning for me strategy, we turn headwinds into tailwinds for the many. And that's what it's about, the many. So thank you for being a part of a blessing strategy as we do this together. God bless.